The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. You are comfortably Zig Zag Man in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland. And this is one of the most exciting days going when I introduce a person who's new to the network, although you've appeared before, Morgan. And you're going to do a podcast, and I am very excited about that. I will be your Fenneman to your Groucho. How about that? And we can make it work and make it interesting. Morgan, welcome again.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm intimidated by your vocal prowess. You got a voice for radio. I myself have a voice for television and a face for radio. So we make do with what we have. Yeah. And Morgan, why don't you tell us what your podcast is going to be about, and I'll give you the mic.
Well, there are basically two areas that I like to talk about. One is baseball, Oakland A's, and the other one is law, primarily delinquent taxes, people who owe back taxes and they're terrified of the IRS. And my specialty as a lawyer is helping people with delinquent taxes. So I could talk about baseball, or I could talk about delinquent taxes. What should I talk about?
Well, let's talk about baseball first, which is dear and near to my heart. You co-wrote a baseball book, and let's be frank. You are an Oakland aficionado all the way. As a matter of fact, if the audience is familiar with Nancy Finley, who's been on this network, you are Mr. Nancy Finley, and I say that with all due respect. She's the daughter of Carl Finley and the niece of Charlie O. And so you have a lot to talk about baseball-wise. I want to start by, and you're an attorney too, I want to start by you giving me a rundown of what's happening with the A's. I'm in the Bay Area, and I have been for 50-some-odd years. I'm a New Yorker, and when I came here, I was in the Air Force right about the time that the A's came from Oakland. And now they are leaving. And I can't tell you how that saddens me. Not just for me and the other old folks around, but for the kids. Let's talk about.
Well, I don't know that it's certain that they're leaving. They have talked about moving to, I think, Las Vegas, but they have a contract with the city of Oakland. And my understanding is the city of Oakland has said, absolutely not. You're staying here in Oakland, which I find interesting because I grew up in San Leandro, which borders Oakland. So I used to deliver a newspaper called the Oakland Tribune when I was 10 years old. And so I'm very familiar with the city of Oakland, and mostly I'm totally unimpressed with how the city has been run for the last half century. I think they're sound asleep. I remember one year, can't remember exactly what year it was, but the local basketball team won their championship. The Oakland Raiders, which was the Oakland football team at the time, won the Super Bowl football play in Super Bowl, or is that baseball? I think that's football.
Well,
And the Oakland A's won the World Series. And I remember thinking, okay, Oakland, it's a perfect opportunity for the city of Oakland to announce that they are the city of champions. I mean, very few other cities, if any, could have claimed that combination of victories by all of its major teams in one year. And much to my lack of surprise, the city of Oakland slept right through it. They didn't make a deal out of it. They didn't announce it. They didn't talk about it. They just snored right through this wonderful opportunity to get on the map and to put the city of Oakland on the map. And they just slept through it. And I thought, well, that's Oakland. That's how I know them. And so now
and you knew this intuitively. You knew this intuitively when you were a kid. It didn't take much thinking. Why wouldn't they? What do you attribute they're not making a quote big deal of it? Because it was a big deal. You had Rick Barry in one sport. Al Ados was the coach. You had John Madden in another with Stabler and what have you. And you had the A's. They were right in the midst of a dynasty, the last pure dynasty in baseball.
Yeah.
72, 3, or 73, 4, and 5. No, 72, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
Because, and they won pennants around those where they didn't get into the World Series. So 5 years there that they absolutely dominated the American League.
Yeah.
And what I want to ask you before I forget the question, and whether they move or not, what is the chances, or why isn't there some sort of eminent domain so that when a city comes to, when an owner has the chance to move, he must first see if there are buyers within the city, before making a move. And
well,
that
is simple. It's what I have known since I was 10 years old. Is the city of Oakland is sound asleep, and that's primarily because its voters, its citizens, are sound asleep. I mean, Oakland. I don't know whether it's just a pervasive inferiority complex or what, but the voters don't seem to hold the city council accountable for anything. And it's, how could they not do that? Because they just don't give a damn. I mean, excuse the language. But, the voters of the city of Oakland are sound asleep, always have been, and therefore the city council is sound asleep. Why should they be otherwise?
Okay. In this situation, did the A's not sign an agreement with Las Vegas already?
I don't know, but I don't think so.
Okay.
But I could be wrong. I just have been following the drama, which is that the city of Oakland is saying, no, you're not going anywhere. And I'm thinking, well, when did the city of Oakland wake up?
Right.
Hold on.
What's your fondest memory of being a kid? A baseball fan as a kid?
Yeah.
What's your fondest memory of being a baseball fan as a kid? Who took you to your first game?
Well, I remember my older brother Roy once said to me, he says, "Are you going to the World Series games?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he says, "Well, the Oakland A's." I said, "Who are the Oakland A's?" I mean, I had been sound asleep, even though I delivered the newspaper. So I saw the headlines on the front page every day. I never paid any attention to the Oakland baseball team. And I remember clearly when Roy looked at me just astonished, and he says, "You don't know who the Oakland A's are?" And I said, "I've never heard of them." He just really ripped me apart. He said, "Morgan," he says, "they are our team." And we were in San Leandro, which borders Oakland, and San Leandro has never amounted to anything. But but Oakland was moving. It was doing some big things. And I remember thinking, oh, gee, I guess I better pay attention to who the Oakland A's are. And that was their third year in a row that they had gone to the World Series. And I had not paid any attention at all. I didn't know they had won 2 World Series already. And my brother Roy was so disgusted with me. Remember? So anyway,
you quickly got on board. Who is your favorite player? Who is your favorite player?
My favorite Oakland A's player?
Yeah, once you got on board.
I can't remember his name. He was one of the. They called him the. Let's see, the Willie. Gave him the Willies. Willie. There were 3 Willies in a row.
Willie McCovey.
Willie McCovey.
All right. He came to the A's late in his career, but he was definitely an A.
He was. I remember he was my favorite. And then there was another Willie. There was a Willie Kirkland who was winning, batting in the 300s the same year. And there was another Willie, but I can't remember his last name. But it was Willie McCovey was the biggie, in my opinion.
Okay. McCovey was terrific, and the A's were in that dynasty. Let's segue a little bit to what you want to do on your podcast, which is either offer legal advice. You're going to have people develop relationships with people that you can help, because saving money on taxes is if you're going to live in this world, you have to pay your taxes, but pay what is due. Do not overpay, and you'll be able to help people with that.
To be honest, I don't know very much about tax law per se. I have an accountant to do my tax return every year. I don't even know how to do a tax return. But I have a lot of clients who are behind on their taxes, and the IRS is coming after them, and these people are terrified, and they should be, because the IRS has incredible power in the United States in a democracy. It's amazing to me how much power the IRS has. They can come in, clear out your bank account. They can grab your car. They can even seize your house if you're not careful. And they can grab your paycheck, and they typically do. If you owe back taxes and you're a year or 2 late in paying them, you need to be just really terrified, because the IRS is going to come and get you. And so what I do is I explain to these people, look, there are 2 or 3 things we can do that are all very legal, besides just running and hiding your money in your girlfriend's bank account, which usually does not work.
Well, it's better if your girlfriend hides her money in your bank account, to be honest with you. It works much better in life that way. But that's just me. It's
I tell them, here are a couple of legal things that you can do. You can do what's called an offer in compromise, which means you negotiate with the IRS, and you agree, and they want to see your financials, to see how much money you're making and how you're spending it and how you can barely make a living, and they will actually compromise and cut down what you owe, the balance that you owe, if you will make a commitment to pay the rest in monthly payments over a 2 or 3 year period. And so that's called an offer in compromise, and it's probably the single most common thing that delinquent taxpayers do. They go to their accountant or their attorney, and the accountant or the attorney will call the IRS and they say, look, here are my clients' bank statements and paycheck stubs, etc. And don't be cruel and just seize everything they have, for crying out loud. let's work something out. And quite often the IRS will do that. But if they think that you're playing games, if you're hiding your income in your girlfriend's bank account, then they will not compromise. They will just keep coming after you, and they will wipe you out. I mean, they will strip you down to nothing. They'll take your car, your house, your bank account, your paycheck, your retirement fund. It's just amazing the power the IRS has. And I guess, as a citizen, I can't really argue against that. I mean, the government requires, it depends on people paying taxes. Now, and some taxpayers deliberately don't. They deliberately play games with the IRS, but a lot of them don't. A lot of them just can't. They are ill 1 year, and their paycheck drops way down, and they can't pay, and the IRS is coming after them, and these poor people are just terrified. So I'd say, look, let's try an offer and compromise first. And if that doesn't work, and in some cases it's not feasible because these people may still be ill, they may be on barely surviving, their health issues. They can't even come up with a payment plan. And so what I do there is I say, look, if the taxes are over 3 years old, and usually they are, because the IRS, being a bureaucracy, doesn't seem to get around to coming after you until the taxes are at least over 3 years old. But if they are, they can be discharged, in other words, wiped out in a bankruptcy. And a lot of people, if you say the word bankruptcy, they're just terrified. Oh my God, I'll lose everything. No, the 90% of people who file bankruptcy in this country don't lose anything. And the reason is because under the bankruptcy laws, most people's assets are what are called exempt from being seized by the bankruptcy court. And so you can have a substantial amount of equity in your house, and you won't lose the house in bankruptcy. And you don't have to turn your paycheck over. Usually that's exempt. And the retirement plan is usually exempt in bankruptcy. And so bankruptcy can become a great remedy for a great many people. And the only thing I regret is most people don't seem to know that. They hear the word bankruptcy and right away they say, oh no, that's not for me. But that's because they haven't really looked into, what their rights are and what the benefits are, and to filing bankruptcy. And I hate to suggest to people, go ahead and file bankruptcy. But, if they owe back taxes and they can't pay them, 9 out of 10 times I tell my clients, hey, let's just file a bankruptcy. It gets rid of your credit card debt. And they're going to say, well, that'll ruin my credit rating. And I'll say, well, if they're hold on.
Should you have credit? If you're at this point, should you have credit? What are you ruining? It's not. It's obviously not good now. So you can't do much to ruin it. And as a matter of fact, in 7 years or 10 years, that bankruptcy doesn't show up on any of your credit. So it gives you an opportunity to rebuild your credit, hopefully in a sensible way, so you don't abuse it. And that's one of the things that you give counseling to, is how to set up a plan that this will be the only bankruptcy. Am I correct?
What you say is correct, that the bankruptcy technically doesn't drop off your credit report for 6 or 7 years. But I've discovered that most sources of credit, like credit card companies and banks, will overlook the bankruptcy if it's only a couple of years old. You don't wait till it drops off your credit report. They look at it and say, oh, you filed that 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And they say, okay, let's just forget that. Let's go and see what your finances are today. And so I tell people that the things that they fear the most about bankruptcy usually are not correct. And Nancy, my wife, Nancy Finley, is in the background, and she's shouting something at me here.
Well, I hope she's sending regards to me because I'm about to send regards to her. She's terrific, and she's been a guest, like I say, many times on the network. You just in this conversation, and I'm not even considering bankruptcy, but you educated me, and that's what it's all about. It's learning your rights, one's rights, and learning what is legal, what isn't. I would suggest, just from the way you communicate, that after the first meeting with a potential client, you alleviate a lot of their fears and anxiety.
Oh my
right
God!
Away.
I can see it visibly change in the way they have their shoulders. They'll come in, they're all drooped over, they're sad, they're depressed, they're afraid they're going to lose everything. By the time I'm through talking to them, they sit up straight and they look at me straight on, and when the meeting's over, they get up straight and their shoulders are back, and they walk out of the office, and I changed their life, and I'm so pleased about that.
Wow. I love your attitude, and I love it, especially in an attorney. I've been blessed. I've found over the years a number of attorneys that I've dealt with on a business level and on a personal level, and they've been terrific. But overall, they're few and far between. So that if one could acquaint themselves with you, Morgan, they'd behoove yourself. How do people get in touch with you? What can they do right now to? Go ahead.
Simplest thing is to go to my website, because it's very simple. It's morganking.com. And there I have my phone number and my email address and all kinds of information. And so I just say to people, look, just go to morganking.com and go from there. And usually people are capable of doing that. The only where they go wrong is some people misspell the word Morgan, and they spell it Morgen when it should be Morgan. But, so it's Morgan King, King, like King Kong, only less hair.
Or Sky King. I'd rather think of you as a Sky King character than a King Kong character. Hanging from the Empire State Building doesn't do you justice.
Okay.
All right. Morgan, this was a terrific interview. People are going to know you as you are, and I'm happy to be able to do it. Let's plan on your first podcast 2 weeks from today. How about that?
All right. I'll be in touch with you, and we'll pick an exact day and time and how to go from there. Yeah.
And we'll get another topic to talk about every week, and we'll leave that to your discretion.
All right. Well, I'm so proud to be on your talk show because you classed the joint up. How about that? All right. Give my best to Nancy, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks, and we'll communicate between now and then. And I look forward to our relationship continuing. All right. Super. Talk to you again.
Thank you.
All right.
Morgan King is the guest. I'm Ralph Tycho, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm the weak link, but the one thing I can do is produce, and in terms of getting guests, co-hosts, podcasters, I do that just fine. So keep tuning in. It's the Comfortably Zoned Network. All of our offerings are archived on my YouTube channel, Comfortably Zoned. So I've got about 3,100 offerings in 10 years. That's one a day for 10 years. I've spoken to some of the most interesting people in the world. Today is no exception. So if you want to go to Comfortably Zoned, please subscribe and you'll get updates on every one of our offerings as they're posted. Thank you again for listening, everybody. Adios and happy trails.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.